hop into this in a second.
So this is not live then?
No,
No.
it is not. It's
It
not
would
a
actually
call.
kind of funny doing
It's not a
that.
call-in show, Steve.
Okay.
No,
we,
yeah.
we know what would happen.
Oh, God.
there.
That would be
I saw
awesome.
your last Facebook post. You're nuts. All right, welcome to episode 5. Yes, we're still here of the North Wright County Today podcast. In fact, we're back in full strength.
We are.
Yes.
All
Sam
of
is
us.
back. Sam's back in the middle. I am Mike Schomer, North Wright County Today, founder, editor, former ink-stained wretch. We've got Sam in the middle, the hostess with the mostest, Sam Pfeiffer from Selfie Company. Down on the end, Nick Schultz, El Presidente, Dear Woodbank.
Yes, sir.
And back for episode 5.
Hi.
They said it wouldn't last, guys. Here we are over a month in. How about that? So, all right. Well, it is March 6th. And you know it's March, and you know it's boys hockey tournament time, and you know it's boys hockey tournament time because of yesterday and
Yes.
what happened yesterday. And I already told Nick I was going to blame him the minute he walked in the studio
Yeah.
for what happened because last week's podcast topics were very optimistic,
Yeah.
as it turns out.
Yeah.
And we started talking about watching ball in the backyard with the bonfire.
Yep.
We talked about golf league. We
Outdoor
talked about all those
activities.
things. And Mother Nature said, the hell you are.
You're in Minnesota. It's not happening.
Yeah. Sorry about that, everybody.
So, I mean, we kind of dodged the bullet here. We
Yeah.
had the wind. We had a little bit of snow. I mean, you guys know, you lived through it. We don't need to recap the whole thing. But boy, oh boy, if you were south or east of
Yeah.
here, you got walloped.
Yeah.
9.5 inches of snow and 40-mile-an-hour winds at the airport. Talking all sorts of delays,
Yep.
things like that. If you were down in the Lakeville area, it was a foot of snow.
Yep.
New Richmond, just some heavy concrete snow, and then here's your 40-mile-an-hour wind snow
Yeah.
on top of it. So, pat on the back for us. We dodged it. City and county did a nice job cleaning it up. I felt like, getting up and going to work in the
Yeah.
morning was not so bad. It wasn't great, but we've obviously had worse.
Yeah, my coworker from Buffalo said that St. Michael sets the gold standard for plowing in Wright County.
And we're not just saying that because Steve Bott is here with us today as a guest. Steve's going to join us here in a few minutes. Steve is the longtime city administrator and loves our plow guys, loves our public works guys as much as we do. So, but yeah, I mean, STMA in general, St. Michael and Albertville
Yeah.
are both pretty great.
Very much so.
I head northeast every day, and so I'm driving through Otsego and Elk River, and I can, they're not bad. The county has usually got a lot more ground to cover, so they're
Yeah.
a little bit behind what we are. But St. Michael gets it done, man. I mean, as far as getting to school yesterday and stuff like that, yeah, there were some accidents. I know I had a couple of high school kids that were not very happy about the no 2-hour delay, and right now Anne Marie's like, I've already been on the show, I'm not coming back. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they went as scheduled, and there were a couple fender benders, but I think as far as everything went, and then of course it's March, so in the afternoon the sun comes out and everything.
Yeah.
It's melted. Yeah.
Yeah, I hurried up, got the driveway cleared, and then came home to nice dry pavement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And South Dakota, where I grew up, everything's concrete. There's no tar driveway.
Okay.
So that was a new phenomenon for me when I came here, is the blacktop driveway. And I had no idea that was a thing. Like you get the snow off of it, and boy, oh boy, it's gonna dry out by the time you get home. That did not happen back in good old Sioux Falls. So anyway, we'll start with some news. Obviously, the big news, and they kind of got their just desserts on Monday at the school board meeting. I think that was the last hurrah for our wrestling guys, but everything went pretty much as expected.
Yeah.
But as we know from a couple years ago when they got knocked off by Hastings, it doesn't always happen that way. But
Right.
boy, this year's team was on a mission
Yeah.
and handily won state as a team. Had the most finalists ever in the individual competition. And of course, the big story, and I've got to click over to it here if I can find it. Well, the big story was the Robidoux brothers.
Yeah.
And one of them, the older one, Landon, I believe. It's
Mhm.
Landon and Lincoln. If I got you guys mixed up, just just send me an email.
Yeah.
Landon, I believe, who lost the state championship as an 8th grader and then just decided, I'm never going to lose again.
Right.
And
State record. Yeah.
has like 180 some
Yep.
wins in a row now.
Yep.
And most of those are by fall. He pinned his way through the weekend.
Yeah.
Just a machine. And
Yeah.
of course, he's going to wrestle at the next level
Yeah.
next year. I believe Oklahoma State.
That's right.
Yeah.
Big 12.
Big
Be
12.
wrestling
There you go.
against
You got
Iowa State.
Gotta throw the second shout outs. Yep. So congratulations to those boys, girls. Tonight, if you're listening to us Thursday, we'll go for, I believe it is their 4th section championship in a row, and
Yep.
the only reason the string is not longer is because the tournament was canceled.
That's right.
In
COVID
2020.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Stupid COVID. So, good luck to Kent Hamry and the girls. Kent Hamry being one of the nicest guys you will ever meet, and just deserves all the success that's come his way. So, they are, a former state champion a couple years ago with the gals who are now playing D1 ball at Seton
Yep.
Hall in South Carolina. And,
Correct.
And just a terrific program out there. Might not be their year this year. There's some really good talent out there in Class 4A,
Yeah.
but if they can get there, never know.
Yeah, Minnesota in general for girls basketball has just been really, really good for D1 recruiters the last several years.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about Maddie Greenway going to Kentucky, and
Yep.
obviously that being Chad Greenway's daughter. Turns out her sister is also a heck of a player in class below the Knights, but Providence looks all the world to be
Yeah.
the best team in Minnesota, and should be kind of like St. Michael Wrestling going through their tournament. I think they're just going to steamroll everybody. So that's our sports. As far as news goes, we talked a little bit about the car wash opening last week.
Yeah.
We got a couple other businesses that are trucking along as far as construction goes. B&D Plumbing.
Yep.
Looks like they're getting some of their operations moved over. The Mexican restaurant here in Albertville, which
Very
I am
excited.
super
So
Very
excited to
excited.
walk to
forward
that
to.
every day.
I know. Yeah, Lisa's looking forward to that one. She loves those mojitos, and so you get those over there.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that, and so seeing some of that construction going on, and then in Otsego we've got, I believe it's 2 different apartment complexes that are rolling now, and so just expansion all over the place, which is good now because you just kind of wonder what's going to happen to the supply chain here in a few months with some of the things going on.
And it seems like the industrial construction's a little bit slow right now. So we'll see what happens there.
A lot of people crossing their fingers and toes to see what happens.
Yeah. I'm just hoping guacamoles don't get too expensive because those avocados.
Yeah, I mean, you
I love 'em.
open a Mexican restaurant, they make that avocado fresh right there. You want
Yeah.
that. So, yeah, that'll be super cool. All right, well, other than that, not a heck of a lot shaking. We'll get into some events. Obviously, fish fries start this
Yes.
Friday.
Fish fry. We're in Lent.
Huh?
Lent season.
Yes, absolutely. Ash Wednesday was yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
so saw your friends walking around with
With
the
all the
ashes
marks.
on the forehead and things like that.
Did you do anything for Mardi Gras?
I did not.
Okay.
No.
Oh, we
did
do.
not do the Mardi Gras thing. Anybody else?
Oh,
Anybody
traditionally,
know?
yes, my family I make gumbo and I make beignets and we watch, what's the Disney movie?
Princess and the Frog?
Yep.
Oh, there you go.
Nice.
Our
So you
family
just took
tradition.
it to New Orleans and,
Yeah,
and
we do.
brought New Orleans to you.
Yeah.
Did you make a king cake?
I did not. We
Okay.
tried to find one and they were not available.
For those of you that might have missed last week, Nick talked about a king cake that he made infamously. And
It was bad. Real bad.
Did you put the baby in and bake the baby?
So I used a Sour Patch Kid.
I heard this, and they
yeah.
make a mess.
And didn't turn out, heated the oven. Yeah.
So-
So I just brought in festively decorated cupcakes to the bank yesterday.
Gotcha.
there you
Or
go.
on Tuesday.
I did bring donuts. I should
you go.
throw it back to that. I brought in donuts with sprinkles, and so
Yeah.
I brought those in. Pretty sure the IT guys at the district office hammered those, and I
Oh, yeah.
don't know if anybody else saw those. So
Have you guys been in New Orleans during this time of year?
Yes.
I haven't.
I have.
yes.
It's insane.
Is it
It's a
fun?
little.
So
Yeah.
I mean, if you want me to go off
Insanity.
on a tangent here, July of 2021, we had it's an annual gathering of professional development and stuff for people who do what I do, which is school communicators. So it's called NSPRA, and we were the first conference back in New Orleans of any large size.
Okay.
So we had about 1,200 of us there, and they took us on a Mardi Gras on a second line from the hotel we were staying at down to the river, and we had a reception on a riverboat, and we were the first second line after COVID.
Oh,
in
wow.
New Orleans. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like that, we're in the history books for that, I guess. So
Yeah.
somebody threw that down somewhere and took pictures of it and saved it for posterity's sake. And
That's great.
yeah. So I mean, it was nothing like it is now, and super happy to see that everything Tuesday night went off safely. It's been a
Yeah.
busy year for New Orleans with the Super Bowl and obviously the tragedy prior to that on New Year's Eve, and then Mardi Gras obviously being a couple nights ago. But yeah, definitely nothing compared to what it is now. But it was fun. It's a sight to see.
It is
it's
fun.
it's people at their most carefree. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way.
Yeah.
My wife is a big Anne Rice fan, and so I don't know if I'd actually be on Bourbon Street or if I'd be touring creepy mansions looking for
We're
vampires.
doing it all. Yeah.
There are plenty of graveyard tours, cemetery tours, haunted house. There is a bar. If it's not on Bourbon Street, it's right off Bourbon Street. That is Anne Rice themed,
Oh,
and
goodness.
so it's got the vampire blood drinks, blood orange beer, things like that. So it definitely dives into that motif.
Okay.
And had lunch there, and it was great. It was fantastic. So the drinks were phenomenal. Couldn't really look at them too long because they are really blood red, like. But they tasted amazing. So let's go. And
There you go.
They are not for the faint of heart. Let's put it that way. All right, we're gonna invite Steve in. So I'm gonna read a message from our sponsor while we
Get Steve in here.
do our musical chairs that we do when we have guests. So happy to have a guest again this week. I'm sure you guys are happy to have somebody too. But so North Wright County Today, the podcast, is sponsored by Solutions Counseling Services in St. Michael. Did you know, and you probably do because you're smart and you're listening to this show, that Solutions Counseling has served 1 in 3 members of the St. Michael Albertville community? That's like more than 10,000 men, women, and kids getting help with solutions and their mental health needs. And we think that's awesome. Because mental health should and is just like physical health. You got to get those checkups and check-ins. And Solutions has more than 20 professionals to choose from to help you. Everything including individual therapists that can help with your depression and anxiety and trauma or marital issues, couples and family counseling for the fam, play therapists for the kids, and even hypnotherapy if you're into that sort of thing. Located right on Main Avenue in St. Michael, Solutions can also offer virtual appointments if that's your jam. Check them out at getcounseling.org and learn more about Craig Renz and his awesome team. They have 2 locations, one in St. Michael, right off of Highway 241, and the other out in the wonderful community of Annandale Maple Lake. You want to set up a tour, set up an initial appointment, do all those sorts of things, check them out online, click through on North Wright County Today website, or check them out at getcounseling.org. Nick, we're going to have you talk about Deerwood Bank for a minute.
Sure.
Who was also one of our great sponsors.
Yes. Had a great week at the bank. Despite the snow, A lot of customers came in, helping them out with their deposits and loan needs. And tomorrow, I'm actually super excited about this. I get to guest judge at the Business Professionals of America state competition in Minneapolis.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So beware, kids. The financial analysis in your business plans better be solid.
There you go. So for those that don't know, that program encourages kids to kind of see the business side of things.
Absolutely.
And learn kind of in a hands-on way. Super cool. For those of you more familiar with like a DECA or something like that.
Yes.
It's somewhat similar, but really honed in on the financials and the operations and things like that. And so cool that you're involved in that.
Yes.
And I think, any chance kids have to learn hands-on that way is super awesome.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that you just don't learn in a classroom, and interfacing with somebody that has been doing that thing for 2.5 decades,
Right.
you learn a lot.
Yeah. Yep. Very true. So check out Deerwood Bank, located in the bank building off Highway 241 in Melby in St. Michael. They've been with us for as long as we've been a thing, so we appreciate their support. And even though their name's changed a couple times, ours hasn't. And Nick has been
always
a mainstay over there, and some of the other faces and things like that have also been there forever and ever and ever. Your hometown neighborhood bank, Deerwood Bank, I tell you what, can't find their superior.
I like to say that I've worked for 4 banks, but I'm still sitting in the same chair.
Absolutely. Same office, same
Yeah.
chair. How handy is that? Haven't had to move once. All right. We are joined by Mr. Steve Bott, who is the city administrator for St. Michael. And we appreciate you coming in, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to see
Super
you.
cool. And yeah, you are on camera, so
Okay.
no obscene gestures or anything like that. No making faces at me behind my back or anything like that. But
Typical city administrator behavior.
Yes, I'll behave myself.
But I tell you what, a little background. The three of us go way back through whether it's through our jobs and networking through things such as that, but also with our kids. Derek, also a senior this year, same age as Cam. I think Derek and Cam have been in the same grade at one point or another, or same room at one point or another since they were in kindergarten.
Quite a long time.
And then, of course, SCMA United Soccer, which is now United FC and Rush. And Steve's also worked as a coach and referee and just done tons of stuff around the community, so we appreciate that. So thanks for coming in, and
Thanks for
awesome
having
to
me.
see
Yeah.
you.
It's
And
great.
what's shaking in St. Michael? I mean, where do you want to start? Not much, right?
Yeah, you tell me. Probably the highlight from last year, other than the Chipotle and Starbucks, which
Yeah, big highlight.
Yeah, we
big highlight.
talked
and
about that.
Deerwood
Yeah.
Bank, but
Yeah, it's been mentioned on the podcast a couple of times.
yeah, that was huge. But growth-wise, we had our highest year since in 20 years. So we ended up with 301 new homes, which is our highest growth in 20 years for new home builds. So while you've seen some struggling things with the economy and stuff around, St. Michael's remained really strong. Interest rates kind of took a little dip on that a year ago, but it's come back really well. Actually, it's interesting. We had more new home builds last year than we had existing home sales. So we had like
Oh, wow.
301 new home builds and 251 existing home kind of resales, which is like, when you figure we got about 6,000 plus houses in St. Michael,
Okay.
it's super, super low.
Yeah. Which probably hasn't happened, I would guess, since the early 2000s.
I wouldn't think so. Yeah, the availability of homes on the market has really dropped, recently, and it just keeps, as the interest rates are going up, I think people are staying in their homes, but hopefully they also, we get a lot of feedback that people just love it here, whether it's our plowing, like you mentioned, or parks or trails or the great staff or whatever we might have.
Yeah.
Our school district is obviously phenomenal. So, people generally, move here, stay here, like to be here, stuff like that. So it's exciting.
Cool. not only residential growth, but commercial growth. And you mentioned probably the top two for most people, especially kids our kids' age. I
Yes.
think Maddie's
Yes.
probably stirred the economy all on her own by the number of times she's run over Starbucks. But, those were things that were in your sights when you and I first started working together, probably in 2010, 2011, when
Yeah.
you kind of,
Back in
I
the
popped
Patch
up
days.
with Patch, and you were transitioning into the city admin role.
Yep.
We kind of said back then, you kind of said, and Mark Weigel, your sidekick there, who's also over at the city hall, is patience, and really you thought those things would come. Now they're here. What was kind of the impetus to that? What was the trigger? What really kind of spurred some of that commercial?
Yeah, well, I think probably the biggest thing is just our successful kind of sustained growth. Those corporate folks don't just randomly come by a phone call or stuff, unbeknownst to what people think. You just need to call them and they'll come build here.
It's
and
that
sure,
easy.
you have a spot for them or whatever. But, as we've seen the growth of the community, we've seen the growth of the businesses, whether it's a bank or, the transition of Cub from Marketplace, which has been phenomenally successful to that Cub. That was a part of that. Then they add on a liquor store, Chipotle and Starbucks come. So yeah, as we've had that growth and those businesses succeeding, we do hear a lot about, needing more restaurants or other things like that. But, a lot of that's predicated also on having success here. So if the ones that we have are doing well here, I say we will get more. If you talk to people and it's like, well, how often do you use our restaurants that are in town? And they say, well, I go to Maple Grove all the time. It's like, well, then we're not going to get any type of thing.
Right.
So and the theater, which has been great to get back is probably the epitome of that example.
Yeah. That was kind of a pivotal time there. I think, you look back pre-COVID there where things were kind of rebounding and things could have gone one direction, another direction. Talk about the city's relationship with council and planning commission and how that relationship is so important to a place like St. Michael.
Yeah, I think, the fact that we have, just a real supportive council and planning commission that are always, people will have different priorities, but I always, as long as you're always looking out for what you believe is the best of St. Michael, the best for St. Michael, will always be successful. And, people may disagree off and on what that is, but at the end of the day, they make a decision and they move on from it. A highlight of that, I think, for the city was coming out of COVID. There was a lot of dollars floating around. We got a lot of money, these business relief funds, and many cities spent them on their own needs, their own personal. They'd bought whether there's fire trucks or whatever,
Sure.
hired more staff, things like that. To the point of probably 90% of it being spent on cities and about 10% of it being spent on the businesses. Now you take that in St. Michael, and our council actually flipped that. We spent about 90% of it on our businesses, the ones that were closed, the restaurants, the theaters, the workout facilities, places that were forced to be closed. And we came out of that with all of those businesses reopening and thriving. And that was a real, I think, good example of how the council and the city works well with the community to try to meet their needs there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think discussing some of those things on the EDA as well as how do you best serve the existing businesses and then attract new ones has always been one of those things that we try to focus our efforts on.
Absolutely, yeah. And Nick's been on our EDA for a long time, and yeah, that's been real key. Is a lot of focus always tends to go on new businesses, which are great, and everybody wants them, but we got to have our existing ones succeed too. And there's kind of that balance too about not, a lot of cities will subsidize new development or other things, new businesses, and there's always been that talk, are those going to compete with our existing ones? And if that's the case, we kind of we want to welcome them here, but they need to kind of work on their own.
Yeah, there's still a moratorium on credit unions, right? Like, just check.
I don't know, I think that's still,
Sorry.
yeah, isn't that still a 6-1 vote on the EDA?
We talk about the growth and getting a little feedback here, so if you guys are getting a little something from me, don't worry about it.
There it is.
But, one of the things that I get asked a lot doing what I do with the website and things like that is as we grow, more cars on the road, more things like that, traffic gets to be a little bit of a headache. What do we see coming to kind of alleviate some of the growth on the south and west side of town? Obviously, the big project that wrapped up last year was 35. That was a joint effort between the county and the city. What else can we expect in terms of that?
Yeah, I think the exciting part is, I think St. Michael's always, and with partnering with the county or the state, always tried to be kind of ahead of the curve on that. We have a number of roads, County 35 included, now that it's 4-lane out to Jameson, that is not anywhere near capacity and won't be for a long, long time. You can get upwards of 50, 60,000 cars a day on a 4-lane road like that, where, currently it's more around 10.
Right.
Same thing when you look at when we put in like Frankfurt Parkway or did 241, partnered with the state to 4 lanes. So, there's more projects to come. We're working on one for next year with the county on County 36 out on the east side, out past Fox Hollow between 94 and 101. Continuing to work with the county on 19 kind of to the south. We did a bunch of improvements to the north. But overall, I think being ahead of that curve, and people always, are always going to complain about traffic if they're delayed a little bit or whatever it might be. But the capacity's been built and is there to handle that expansion. And that's the thing that I think maybe people, may misconstrue a little bit, that rather than being reactive, I've been really proud that St. Michael's been kind of proactive in that infrastructure stuff, which is my passion and bread and butter.
I think the hard part is all 10,000 of those cars seem to get on the road at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, rush hour is, yeah.
It's that 3:30 to 6 o'clock, stretch where it's just, especially on a Thursday afternoon or a Friday, where it just seems like everybody's using 19 or 35 to get out of town.
Yeah, well, it's roundabout central now, so
Right.
we don't have the delays at the traffic signals, and we've worked for years with getting those timed right and stuff coming through town to try to keep traffic flowing as much as possible.
Well, if you could call Adam in Albertville and see if you could get those
there you
timed
go.
a little better, because I think they've tried to experiment a little with the ones in this neck of the woods. You look at 37 and 19 and 38 over here, and obviously some of those are definitely going to change with Costco coming and things like that.
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
lights are always the biggest issue for people. And,
Steve, you mentioned infrastructure, and you won't toot your horn, so I will. You were an integral part of the I-94 Corridor Coalition, getting lanes expanded on I-94 to St. Michael and beyond. Can you talk a little bit about what that process is like? I couldn't even tell you where to start on how to get a road built.
Yeah, no.
I mean, that's been a 20-year journey.
It
Yes.
has. It really has. Yeah. The thing is that people, it's amazing. I mean, I became the administrator in 2012, and we set council goals every year. And I know Bob Darris, my predecessor, who was a mentor to me and was great, would kind of had this process for goal setting, and so we kind of mimicked it. I'd only been in the job about 6 months, and it came up that the number one goal of the council that year was to expand lanes on 94, period. That was number one. They ranked their goals. And I'm like, oh God, okay, how do I do
That's
this?
a big
How
one.
do we get this
That's a big
done?
one.
Because at the time,
Welcome to the job.
yeah, in 20, so MnDOT, the Department of Transportation puts out a 20-year plan. This is all their projects they plan to do for 20 years. And 94 was not on there, period. There was zero plans, zero money allocated, nothing for 94. So anyway, at that time, then I kind of stepped up. The 94 Coalition was in existence. Bob kind of helped get it started, but it was kind of fledgling and hadn't really had much success. So, basically I became the chair of the 94 Coalition at the time, and we really just stepped on the gas. I really started advocating, kind of spreading the word. Had a lot of business support, a bunch of chambers, got all the communities around to really have everybody get in on board that everybody's got their individual projects, if you will, and priorities, but collectively for all the cities in the county around, everybody could see that, and especially the businesses, that people were living and dying by 94. If people couldn't get there, couldn't get their goods delivered, right. People couldn't come out here to even live or whatever, it was going to fail. So fast forward to today, through a lot of advocacy, the Corridors of Commerce program was in existence. Right. That was our first project. First time I heard those words were in Frank Hornstein, the former House Transportation Chair's office. Right. Thinking about that, and ultimately that led to a bunch of bite-sized pieces and projects. That today we pretty much once the GAP project's done and 610 gets connected, we're going to have basically all the lanes planned and built and expansion all the way from Fish Lake Interchange up to Clearwater, about $700 million in expansion. Wow. Expenses and plans and benefit that didn't exist, back in 2012, wasn't even on the 20-year radar, wouldn't have been built today. So yeah, really thank you for that, and yeah, excited. It definitely took a team effort and a lot of community leaders, both private and public, to say this is important. This is what this area needs, and we got it done. That's cool.
I mean, it goes beyond what you see as you travel the freeway. You obviously can see Boyer trucking, you can see the housing out past Fox Hollow, but you're going to see Costco. You see the development on 37 and all the way up and down the freeway. It's just changing the landscape of our communities. Monticello with the housing that they're building around the road there, just crazy. And it just, once the ball started rolling, it was just a force of nature. It just kept rolling.
Yeah, we've been lucky, and I think it's taken some, like you mentioned, some good leaders to see that greater vision and to know that what might be good for St. Michael is also good for Albertville or Otsego and right. Rogers, and people don't really at the end of the day care where the Costco, if it is located. They just like the fact that they can get to it and have it close to them and have those amenities where they don't have to drive many miles to have it. So having all those come to this area. Say the same thing for transportation. The Corridors of Commerce program, they weren't 169 up through Elk River wasn't even on anybody's radar with that. The 94 Coalition had been really lobbying hard for those Corridors of Commerce funds. We ended up getting the Albertville to St. Michael's section done with the funds from a couple of years ago, but Elk River also got all the way to get the freeway going through there and get rid of all those signals. Well, that's benefit to everybody in the region that can move.
Especially on a holiday weekend.
Yes.
Trying to get north on 169.
Exactly,
One of the things that I've seen, obviously communication is my background and it's what I do, but the city is finding some new and creative ways to keep people engaged, obviously using social media, the website, things like that. How is that going for you guys? How do you keep people who are, like you say, 300 new homes? How do you keep people connected and keep people apprised of what's going on other than popping on some guy's podcast?
Yeah, well, this is the #1 channel, right?
Right, that's right.
Absolutely. So, we've put an emphasis in the last few years on communication. I think more that social media's gone. There's more of a demand for that. We recently, in the past year, started doing these email blasts that come through Gov Delivery and our communications person. We hired a communications person. We're now on our second one, but a couple years ago, and that's helped greatly to really put that focus. And that was a priority for the council too, is to really help with our communication to the public. We've gotten great responses. We did a park plan a couple of years ago here, and you know, usually we'd be having it where you got to come into City Hall and hear a presentation or do an open house and give comment. But you know, now having that all online, we had just tremendous response from those surveys and people saying what they wanted to have added to that plan and bring to the community. So some of that communication, we continue to try to roll stuff out all the time. I know websites and traditional things, but it's been nice to get just great numbers on signups. So yeah, I encourage anybody to go online and sign up for our Gov Blast. They're kind of different things, whether you want to hear about projects or just what's going on in the city.
Right.
It's been great. Thank you.
With some of those surveys, Steve, there's feedback, and that goes into the city's comprehensive plan. I think it's like Plan 2040 or something of that nature. What are you most excited about when you look forward 15 years?
Retirement.
That'll be all of us.
Yeah,
all of us.
You're about right on.
Yeah.
I just turned 50.
No,
last
I'm
year,
just
so,
kidding.
yeah.
Dude, you still got work to do. You got stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. No, we've. I think probably the biggest thing is just sustaining that positive growth and watching our core fill in with the businesses and the community that, like Mike mentioned, was just, we got to be patient. We got to, stuff will come in time. I think our planning commission and council have been good about that. Even the community to know that, there was probably some opportunities we could have jammed something in that to downtown that might have been the wrong fit, but have taken the time to make sure that the right things come. And over time, I just look forward to, continued growth of those residents, the businesses, continued success, and really sustaining that for a long, long time.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah.
We really are a fortunate community in what we have to offer, as far as, you've got a community space such as the City Hall, which was kind of, again, at the beginning of your tenure was kind of happening, and with the high school opening and the facilities there with the activity center and things like that. What do you hear most from families? What do they want? What do they need? And what could the city maybe provide in the future for those families?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit on it. I think, other than restaurants or whatever, but it's kind of a typical one. We do hear, recreational opportunities. We've built 2 new parks in the last couple of years, Bartle Park and Anton Park, and then we are just finishing going on Ewell Lake Park down by Legacy Bay. So
Yeah.
excuse me. So those recreational amenities are definitely there. Town Center's been a big hit. That made it on our council goals to maybe try to expand some activities there to bring more people to the kind of downtown and town center. But and then our partnerships with the schools, with the fields and their facilities, as you mentioned, have been tremendous. So we look to kind of keep that going and keep that expanding as we take advantage of the new growth coming to town.
Anything we missed that you want to hit?
When I mentioned the schools, I think that's one thing that a lot of people, it's a misconception, a lot of people of growth, is that our schools do have capacity. Talk to Anne Marie, they need growth to help stay sustained. We don't want to be the community that all of a sudden is stagnant and you're closing schools and things like that. So there is capacity in the schools, there's capacity on our roads to handle that growth in a well-planned, which we think it is, manner. So I guess that's just, as I mentioned, the school is something that we've kind of tried along with the school. We partner. We got a joint meeting coming up with them in Albertville here in a couple weeks, and try to just let the community know that this growth. I joke that the people that are a lot of times anti-growth are I say, oh, that's right. You were supposed to be the last house that was ever built in the same way, because usually they moved here in the last, 4, 5, 10 years.
That's
type
right.
of thing. So
Don't tell the people in that development, but they were supposed to be the last one.
that was supposed to be it. Yep, exactly. And that cornfield next to you was a cornfield, where your house is, type of thing. And there's, property people want to sell and things like that. We don't try to force anything on on people. But there are definitely some challenges that come with the growth, but it's also brings a ton of positives to the community.
Yeah. It's an interesting dynamic because I think, people who have been here a long time remember when the council kind of said, hey, we got to take a breath and kind of hit the pause button.
Right.
And what people don't understand is we haven't hit that level of growth ever again. Like it may seem like it. It may feel like it when you drive west on 35 and see the rooftops on where a very large farm complex used to be. But 300 homes compared to what was being built back then.
Yeah, 420 the year I got here in 02, and I joked that the big challenge was we needed to slow the growth down, and we almost got it stopped with the recession.
Yeah.
So we did a little too good of a job.
2008 kind of did a great job with that.
Down to like the 20s. So
and I
through
think
the recession.
You never want to say it's different this time. That's usually the kiss of death in economics. But
finance guy.
One of the things that's driving the growth now, there are economic forces. There's demand for housing versus speculative housing, which is a much better situation to be in as a city.
Yeah. You don't see the.
You'd like to think some people have learned their lesson.
Yeah, probably not. But
I hope you're right.
History sighs and repeats itself. Well, thanks so much, Steve, for joining us, man. This was great. We'll have you back when things are shaking and changing and big announcements and stuff like that, because I know there will be some.
Sounds good. Yeah,
and,
appreciate you having me.
To catch up with you on the state of the city and stuff like that is always a good idea. I think, people see, people see what they want to see, but I think in general, people see good things in our town. And, obviously we have such a unique experience with Hanover, St. Michael, Albertville, Otsego, all being so blended together and boundaries keep being sort of these vague things. But this area is hopping, and it's because of the people behind it and people in leadership positions like you, people who have these wonderful ideas like Ellie from Homegrown and Eating Elevated and all the other people who've kind of gone out on a limb and done something cool and it's worked. And I was at Main Street Farmer the other night and the owner came over to me and he's like, 10 years. And I'm like, jeez.
Yeah.
You gotta be kidding me. I remember when this was Thrifty White, So just incredible people in our community and we appreciate you being there.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Appreciate you having me. It's been great. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve.
You bet. Thank you.
We'll let Steve slide out. We'll let Sam slide back in, and we will recognize a couple more of our sponsors. Hey, Stellus Health is just another one of those great sponsors for North Wright County today, who's been there for quite a while. And, neighbors helping neighbors is their whole thing. Hey, maybe you're thinking about starting a family, or you're thinking about starting retirement, or maybe you're thinking about starting college. For women of every age, March is Women's Month, Women's History Month. Women of every age and every stage of life, Stellus Health provides the full range of women's health care. From simple physical exams to complicated pregnancies, from primary care to gerontology, they're gonna make me say medical words, and we'll see how this goes. And everything in between, we provide women with personalized, comprehensive care in the community where you live. Clinics in Buffalo and Monticello with same-day appointments and urgent care too. Find out more at StellusHealth.com. Stellus Health, neighbors caring for neighbors, and get your appointment scheduled at StellusHealth.com. Well, that was awesome. And I know I say that after every guest, but we've just had awesome guests. So, but, Steve and I have this parallel in our careers. I moved here in 2006 and was in the city of Monticello for quite a while, doing the newspaper up there. And got my opportunity with Patch, and we launched in late 2010. And Bob Darris was obviously the city administrator at the time, but Steve was definitely the right-hand man and the guy in waiting and things like that. So similar relationship with Paul over at the bank. Kind of have that alignment set. And And before we knew it, Steve was city administrator, and here we are coming out of the 2008 doldrums into the kind of boom that we saw in 2010, 2011, things like that, where things really started rolling again. And obviously new high school and new city center and things like that. And now we're just kind of in the second wave of that. And Steve and the other staff over there have just done a great job. And Steve's leadership has just been essential. So cool that he could have joined us. And we do toss some softballs. Not gonna lie, questions, but when it comes to hard questions for St. Michael, I think the hardest thing is controlling that growth.
Yeah.
And the mindset of people that it's too big, or we don't have enough here, things like that. And that's gotta be a hard thing to do. It's hard as a parent to hear, why don't we have this?
Yeah, I think back to some advice I got is, if you're going to try to make everybody happy, sell ice cream.
You are not pizza.
Yeah. You're probably never going to solve for everyone's needs and wants, but I do think the folks that are making those decisions and going into work every day to make those things happen, their hearts are in the right spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at what people have wanted for their families in this community. Well, we need an activity center. Well, the city partners with the school district, and suddenly we have the activity center and the workout area there, which obviously now in hindsight looks a little small for our community.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if we could expand the weight room so that the teams could do their squats while Nick does his work over on the other rack, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But
definitely something to think about in the future for both entities. But we need Otsego just put in a beautiful splash pad. Could we do that? And we have a wonderful splash pad recreational area in town center there. And pickleball's exploding. We need here's some pickleball courts, same area. I think the city has done a fantastic job of meeting needs. And like anyone, I'll complain. Absolutely.
It's your right, Mike. It's your right.
If I'm sitting on 19 and I'm going to get the kids, at their mom's on the south side of town, and I have to drive back to the north side of town, it takes a while.
It does now.
And that's just part of being in a growing community.
Yep.
And so, maybe we can get somebody from the county in and talk to them about the timing on the lights.
They do seem off.
Yeah.
Why is one turning green and the other one's turning red as you approach it? Like this.
I believe we're in the phase of our podcast where some things have come up more than once, and that is, especially like I said, by that Main Street farmer area where you're trying to just get through those 2-3 lights in a row, and you're just like,
Yeah.
So. All right. We're going to let Sam talk a little bit about our host location, Selfie Company.
Oh,
Yes.
The Selfie Company. Yeah, so when we first opened, it's something I've always wanted to do is have featured local artists in one of our sets. And we had a family come in a couple weeks ago, and they're like, well, how often do you change the sets? We got in that conversation, which I change them quite often because I'd never want your experience to be the same twice. So I'm just like, in one of my sets, I'm not really quite sure what to do. Taylor Swift, let's kind of boot her out and let's get something new in. And I said, when I first
Whoa.
T-Swizzle?
You're going to get emails.
Oh, don't hate. I had
Coming
Taylor
at
Swift.
you.
If you missed it, shame on you. That was all on you. That's not on me. She was up for a bit.
I don't think you know how the Swifties behave on social media here.
Actually, I do. So I actually had a Taylor Swift party here, and it was super fun. So no hate for Taylor Swift, but it was time for a new change. Anyways, so I wanted to always feature a local artist, and that can be a Minnesota artist, that can be a local student, kind of just, anyone. I like to say community, like within Minnesota for sure. But
Super cool.
But Joy, actually, her husband, as they were leaving, we were talking about it in anyways, and it just came about that Joy was actually a local artist. So a little bit about her, she has a Bachelor of Fine Arts degree. And in her 30s, she was diagnosed with autism and kind of found art to be her kind of relief from that. And so she's our feature right now until
That's cool.
until end of May. So she did kind of a super fun set out there for us. So you can come in,
That
be
is
immersed
so
in her art,
awesome.
and come
Yeah.
learn about joy. And yeah,
Super awesome.
it
And
is kind of awesome.
super unique, and I think, like you said, the more artists you get involved, the more things
Yeah.
can change, and
Yeah.
and you come here and you have a different experience, and,
Yeah.
and can make it kind of a tradition or whatever. But
Yeah.
I think that's super sweet. So,
Thank you.
all right. Well, what else do we want to talk about today?
Not springtime weather. that
Supposed to be
didn't
really
work last
nice
week.
And then gross again, I heard.
Yeah.
I'm not going to step on that landmine again. Well, I'll throw it out there. So we just had the city administrator on from St. Michael, Steve Bott, and if you could set the direction, if you could play city administrator, if you could throw your hat on, what thing would you like to see? Would you like to see more commercial growth? Would you like to do something to help with infrastructure? What would you like to see St. Michael do if you could be city administrator for a year?
A year? Well, first
Not
off,
enough time.
I'd have to get my civil engineering degree. But I think traffic control is something that comes up pretty much regardless of who you speak to. And so finding ways for things to flow better, I know a lot of that is on the county's table rather than the city. But then also walkability, which is part of the city's plan for 2040, is that downtown area, Main Street Farmer, eating elevated, homegrown, trying to enhance walkability within that area, so folks don't have to get in their car and clog up traffic lanes.
I think that's actually a super good point. You know, I think one of the more underutilized features of our community is the fact that we do have some bike paths and some
Oh, yeah.
things. And the tunnel by Walgreens, which some people probably don't even know exists, there's a tunnel under 241. If you want to get from, areas south of town center and get into town center, hop on your bike and you can make your way through, and you don't even have to cross that busy road. And some awesome paths there down through Upper and Lower Recreational Park, down the river. You can bike all the way to Hanover.
Oh, yeah.
And or run or walk or whatever you want to do.
You could actually get to Baker Park.
Right. And it's something Bob kind of started and Steve continued. When 19 was kind of redone down there in Hanover, 34 BB Lake Road, with that route all the way out to BB Lake. That's probably an underutilized, under-recognized feature of our town. And I agree with you. I think, if there's ways we can bring St. Michael and Albertville together, even St. Michael and Rogers through paths and walkways and things like that, and highlight those things, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Definitely something we're going to need.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So, April Schultz, when the weather does get nice, we're going to ride our bikes to Hanover for dinner at River Inn.
There you go.
Get ready.
Yeah.
Ready.
River Inn or Big Board. Absolutely.
Why not?
Yeah.
Both?
Not a terrible idea at all. How about you, Sam?
I would like to see more commercial, just to kind of offset some of our property taxes. I think more commercial, it would be that would be nice. And not just franchise, but more small businesses to come in and open up. More, restaurants, of course. We always complain that we don't have enough restaurants, so we end up going elsewhere. So I would like to see more.
Yeah.
I think, the opportunity will be there.
It will be there,
If we can get the county and the cities on board to expand 19 a little bit south of town here, there is that area, in between the two communities where it's kind of ripe for some commercial development. I think also, you look north into kind of 19 as you head into Otsego and as some of that area develops. Agree with you 100%. People used to give strip malls such a bad name, but we're sitting in one now, and it's such a beautiful facility. And the things that you can house in it are innovative and cool. And you look at what Ellie has done with Eating Elevated in that building, the offerings in there, and then you have Homegrown across the street. I think as you see the towns develop and grow even closer together. You know, that everybody kids about the thin line between St. Michael and Albertville, how nobody knows where it is. Well, I think you're going to see that as we butt up to more communities,
Right.
Yeah.
which will bring more opportunity for commercial things like that. What we need are innovative people like the Conses and the Ellies and you know,
Yeah.
who want to stick their neck out and say, this is where I want to do business, be business. This is, you know, this is my life business.
Right.
And Summit Chiropractic is here. They're building a cool building right
Well,
there on 19.
And to add, just as a small business owner, like we are super supportive of small businesses in this community.
Right.
Like it's a tight niche. Like we're there for each other.
Yeah.
Like it's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and this area definitely warrants that.
Yeah.
You know, you see them in church, you see them
Yeah.
at
Right.
the bank, you
Yeah.
see them, you know, wherever. You know who's running that place. You
Yeah.
know, so pretty cool. Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think one, resources and infrastructure is definitely a big thing. I think we're hurting ourselves a little bit with the lack of north to south routes.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that more. I kind of went out on my own on North Wright County today last year and basically said, look, if nothing else, the construction on 35 shows us that we need some alleviation here because construction is an eternal thing. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of the 5 seasons here. We can't have it like that every time we close a road.
Yeah. My neighborhood was one of the, I'll call it throughways.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of traffic, not a lot of people stopping at stop signs.
Right.
Yeah,
man.
that wasn't fun.
Yeah, yeah. And I think if you went over to the Rambling Creek side on the other side,
Yep.
people were cutting through that way to get
100%.
south. So
Well, even leaving my house in the morning though to drop my kid off at the high school, it's impossible.
Yeah.
You can wait like 10, 15 minutes just to. Ooh, it's
And that's
dangerous.
not just waiting for the kid.
No,
No.
just waiting for the traffic.
no, we could have a whole nother segment on pick up and drop off at our school.
Oh, God.
We only have about 3 minutes left
Oh.
here, so I don't want to dive into that too much. But again, all credit to Steve and the leadership
Yeah.
over at St. Michael, Adam Nafstad, the leadership at Albertville, and give our friends at Otsego credit too because they're dealing with massive growth over there. I mean, people probably don't know Otsego is the largest community in Wright County now.
Oh,
wow.
my gosh.
It has
I didn't
passed
know.
St. Michael. So rooftops there are just keep on, 300 is nothing over there. That's
Yeah.
that's a Lennar development.
Yeah.
we've got another one over here, and we've got a different over here. So
Yeah.
you're just going to see that area fill in, and so obviously more and more traffic will require more and more infrastructure.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that should probably do it for this week. I think we'll
It feels
leave it
right.
there. We're an
Yeah.
hour in. We will we'll get to a couple sponsors and then we'll close her down. But North Wright County Today podcast has been brought to you by Peggy Shum. It is tax season, but when isn't it? If you're one of those small business owners like Sam talks about, you're always doing your finances. You're always checking your taxes. You want to do what you can to be proficient and efficient in this economy. And one of the ways you can do that is knowing your tax laws, and the best way to do that is work with a local tax professional. Peggy Shum has been here forever.
Her entire life.
Her entire life, man. She has been doing taxes here for a long time, and North Wright County Today has been doing taxes with her for nearly a decade, and she is the best. You want personal service, you got it. You want to drop off and not think about it, Peggy and her team can do that too. Located in St. Michael, in Town Center, which we keep talking about so much. They are prepping 2024 taxes now. Get it done by someone who's local, someone who's involved, someone who knows how to get it done. For more, visit cpapss.com. That's cpapss.com, or call her up at 763-497-7817. All right, thanks, guys. Man,
Thanks.
we've got some good stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks. We've got Craig Renz and Solutions Counseling talking about mental health. which, this is a big time of the year for that. We've got Sandy Greninger who's going to join us.
Yes.
And if you don't know Sandy, you're going to meet someone.
You ain't been here
who's
long.
You have, yeah.
Dynamic.
Did you just move yesterday if you don't know Sandy? Because everyone knows Sandy.
So we are going to catch up with her. We are going to catch up with Josh and Emily Ligon from
Yes.
the new food shelf here in St. Michael. We've got people lining up, man.
Cool.
Jeff O'Brien, attorney at law, the barrister who is just the man in demand. He has guided us through local liquor laws, and now he is taking on cannabis and guiding municipalities and businesses through that law. And that is one question I forgot. We're gonna have to have Steve back now. Because what are we gonna do for cannabis in our town? Are we gonna have a dispensary?
So
here?
the way the law is written, a county has a certain population, and until you hit, I believe it's one dispensary for every 140,000 residents, you can't actually say no. And I think that is how the state planned to generate that tax revenue,
Right.
is basically pigeonhole people into not being able to say not in our town until they had that limit set in a county.
Right.
We do have a gentleman that owns. Mikey goes to him.
Okay.
I don't know. We do have one in town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just in St. Michael.
No, in Albertville.
Yeah. I knew
Yeah.
about the one in Albertville. I'm wondering if St. Michael's gonna do that one.
Well, maybe I need to open up another.
There you go. Look at that.
New small business
opportunity.
idea.
Wait,
New small
opportunity
business.
has arisen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. We appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you next week. And go Royals tonight. We got to cheer for our neighbors.
Yep, Rogers Royals against Edina.
Against Edina. Beat those cake eaters, and we'll update you on all things hockey and all things basketball next week. And then lots of events out there. Lots of things get rolling now that we're in the spring. So plenty to come back for. So we hope to see you next week. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks.